you ever considered that there are secrets that you could benefit from right out of the Deep South? That's what we're talking about today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager. Flourish-Meant is part of the Spark Media Network and can be heard on the Edify app. Today, I have with me guest Jane Jenkins Herlong. She is a Sirius XM Southern Humorist, an international best-selling award-winning author, a professional singer, a recording artist, and award-winning professional speaker. She's an inductee into the prestigious Speaker Hall of Fame. She's also author of 5 best-selling award-winning books, a former Miss America contestant. She crisscrosses the country, sharing her sweet tea wisdom and Southern fried humor. She's here to talk to us today about her secrets from the Deep South. Welcome, Jane. I'm so delighted to have you on Flourish-Meant today.
Oh, thank you, Tina, for having me. I'm excited. And the fact that you're from Charlotte or in Charlotte, yay. We're neighbors.
Yes, I moved north from Florida to live in the South.
That's funny.
So tell the listeners, what kind of secrets could they learn from those in the Deep South?
Well, I think, Tina, people are very fascinated with our Southern ways. And as we get the influx of folks from other parts of the country, we realize that they just love to hear our stories. They love to listen to all of our maybe past adventures with family and with me in the Low Country. I have the influence of the Gullah culture in my life. And, I remember when my grandmother said, let's go meet your kinfolk. And we drove up to this old house with no grass in the yard, no paint on the house. And these 2 women looked like they were going to cut you. They were tough looking, with the cotton house dresses and the sash shoes if they were invented. So, they were scary. And it was ready for this. Aunt Wee Wee and cousin Fanny. It was like, are you kidding me? But as I got to know them, they were totally delightful and they were just full of stories and they had their own little secret stories. So kind of thought about that and just remembering how special we are in the South and never to lose that. And maybe some people need to be reacquainted with our Southernism. So that's kind of how the book came about. It's been fun.
Fun is an important piece of being healthy, and humor is part of our medicinal blessing that we get from God. He gives this to us as a gift, and you share that gift so well, Jane. So tell people some of the humorous things that they can look forward to in helping bless their lives from the Deep South and all the wonderful resources you have.
Well, I love stories. I absolutely do. So in our little Sunday school class at our little Harmony United Methodist Church, there was a gentleman in there, Nicky, and he told a story. And after he told, I said, Nicky, I got to have that story. And it was about him being 17 and at boot camp. So he was just scared to death. He just knew he was going to fail and go home. And he said he got on his knees and he prayed. He said, God, I need encouragement. Please just give me a sign. And when he opened his eyes, Tina, he saw his dog tags, and written on the dog tags were the words, be positive. And no kidding, because he was so young, he didn't understand the connection. And he said, oh, this is from God. So he changed. And he just became very aggressive and much more positive and can do and all that. And his friends noticed it and they said, man, I thought you were going to go home. He said, no, God gave me a message. And they said, really? What do you mean? He said, yeah, I was praying about it. He said, look at my dog tags, be positive. And the guy said, yeah, you want to see my message from God? Oh, negative. Well, he didn't know it was his blood type. So, and that's a biblical principle too. And I remember hearing Zig Ziglar, and I was privileged to know Zig, and he always said, and so many other people have said this too, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And the Bible says so clearly, so as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if we think positive thoughts, and the Bible always tells us, focus on the good, the positive, and the pure, and not things that pull us down. And we've all struggled with this the past 2 years, looking around and worry and stress. And so when COVID has kind of started to lift a little bit, I was well into the book and I'd signed the contract with Tyndale House. They've been great. And I started doing little sweet tea shows. I just left rehearsal with my friend Margaret, and we're doing a Valentine's banquet in a theater. So we're doing theater shows on top of my speaking. It's so much fun. So, I think God just keeps opening doors. And I call the show Sweet Tea Tunes. So So, so it's fun, but all these things are the nuances of the South that are in the book.
Sweet tea sort of says a lot about the South. There's a lot of sweetness that happens that coats things, but at the same time, tea has to have a certain amount of strength in order for it to have flavor. So talk to us about the sweetness and the flavor that we can learn from Southern people.
Well, I think one of my best lessons, and here I was in the world of the Miss America pageant. I was Miss South Carolina, and I was a little compliant. Everybody loved me, beauty queen mode, and I love everybody, and beauty queen waves and kisses. And then we had a family problem, and it was very difficult with my mother. She was aging and she was widowed. And I realized that it was time for me to step up to the plate and learn how to be a strong woman. And to be, Tina, I feel sorry for women who don't get skills in life, because stuff's going to happen. You can bet guarantee that. And when things just fall apart, what do? I mean, what kind of skills do we have to move forward, to maybe make our messes our messages, our pain somebody else's gain? I mean, can you do it? And so I remember I thought, where did I learn this about the strong woman steeped in tradition, very Southern, very feminine? And I thought about my grandmother, and she had just become widowed. And my sister and I were staying at her home, and there was an intruder trying to break in, just beating on the screen door. I'll never forget this. I was scared to death and covered myself up. My sister and I did when I covers. And I heard, let me in, let me in. And then all of a sudden, this sweet little grandmama, I thought there was a man in the house helping her. She had one of these lever action rifles, you go kick, kick like that. And I heard, you get off my porch or I'll blow your head off. And I thought, who's that man? It was Grandmama McElveen, honey. She had, her little hair net. Of course, she had Clairol blue hair. I swear there's a color, Clairol blue. And had her cotton dress on, and her little cotton robe. And she's about to kill that guy with that gun. And then all of a sudden he ran. He was smart because he wouldn't have had a head left on his body. And then she just comes up in, and we were just scared to death, looks around and says, how my little darlings. And I thought, oh, now there's a strong Southern woman right there. You do what you got to do when you have to do it. So I wrote about that in the book. And I think the title is when a Southern woman has to woman up. Get with it. Be strong. You can still be a lady. She went right back to being that sweet little grandmama. But there's a time when we have to do things that we might not be comfortable with. And we better, I love Joyce Meyer in that she said one time, if you don't learn the lesson the first time, you're going to keep getting it till you do. Now, Tina, that's good stuff right there. That's good.
I love the lesson in the story you just told about making sure the wrong things don't get into your house and being willing to woman up and stand at that door and say, no, you do not belong here. Can you talk a little bit about how that Southern culture, especially that Gullah culture, really speaks to that strength that a woman needs to have to say, these are my boundaries?
Oh, absolutely. And I had to learn that. I needed a lesson in boundaries and borders. And I read a book by Jan Sevelius called Foolproof Your Life. And basically the theme is, if you try to get along with people who are foolish, you're a fool too. And I thought about that. And that's what I was doing. I mean, the Bible says it in the way that you throw your pearls before swine. You better protect your pearls. Now, Gullah, Tootsie, I loved her. She was my other mama. And she worked for us. And I hate to say that word because she was more just like a companion. I would pick her up and she stayed at the house from 9 o'clock, which I love 9 o'clock because she came to the house. And I hated 2 o'clock because she left. But I remember she would say things in Gullah to me like, don't you never let nobody take no sweetness that the God done give you in your heart. You don't protect your heart. And she would speak passionately about that. And then I remember one time she had a terrible light bill, and she very wise woman. And she went to pay her bill. It was like $6,000. It was an error. Boy, she's so mad. And boy, she popped that bill down on that counter. That woman just popped it in her hand. I mean, they went back and forth. And finally, Tootsie looked at me and she said, "There is some people in your life where their spirit and your spirit just not like one another." And I thought, that is so true. As hard as you try, you're not going to be able to relate to every single person in your life. So know those boundaries and borders and protect the sweetness, as Tootsie told me, that God put in your heart. She called it the sugar God done bless you with. So, I mean, I love those stories and I put them in the book. And at first people were going, I don't know about that. I went, oh yes. those are some of the dearest memories and the most wonderful people who taught me godly lessons. And I will always be indebted to that wonderful group of Johns Island folks that I love. And to this day, I love. And another thing I did, Tina, when my mother passed away, I felt like there was a lot of stuff that came in that house that needed to leave. So I got a minister, a wonderful man of God, and he prayed and prayed. And I said, you cover this house and you get this stuff out. And he did. And you know what? I have always prayed that God would have that home in Charleston that I inherited from my parents. We rent it, that God would make it a place of peace. And do you know, everybody that comes in, they say, Jane, this house has a spirit of peace. And I'm going, thank you, Jesus. I mean, it's the Lord's blessing. That's what it is.
How can we be better at making sure that we protect that blessing that the Lord wants to give us so that no one can take it from us?
I think we need to be prayed up and pray that the Lord would give us discernment, because Tina, there are things that we're not supposed to do, that we step in to roles. And I love my sister. She had a very sad spirit of envy. And I tried so hard to reach her, and she died prematurely. It was terrible, right after my mother died. And I said to her, I asked her to forgive me. I didn't know what to do. But the Lord quickened me one day and said, that's not your job. You're not going to be the one. So stop. And I did. I've had to do that several times. But you need to know where your role is. But you also need to know those danger signs when you see them in your home and you see them like inappropriate television. To be honest with you, I didn't have direct TV or any kind of streaming service in my home when my children were small. There's too much junk coming in my house. My children always laugh and say, Mama, you got those Mormon videos. I said, they were the best. Future films for families. And then James Dobson started releasing real healthy videos. I think, I can't remember the name of them, but they were great cartoons and stuff like that. So I was very intentional with that. I did not let my children even say the word shut up. I said, we don't allow that word in this house. So that's the kinds of thing. I think if you let one show in, then another one will come. Maybe not. I don't know. It's okay. But really and truly, if you're not quickened in the spirit, that stuff will poison your children. And then I didn't let my children go to other children's homes either. And because, I was very careful as I travel as a single woman. I'd get to my destinations before dark. I don't go in a bar and order. I will never do that. You're just inviting the enemy to come into your life and infect your home. Because what does Satan try to do? 3 things: kill, steal, destroy. That's not happening. I'm leaving that out. And people too, that I feel like don't have a healthy spirit among them. I've had to get rid of relationships that I've had for many, many years. And I'm not ugly. It's not that I don't love them, but I don't like them. And I'm not going to have them in my life. I'm sorry, I'm not. And COVID was a big deal to stay positive and stay away from certain people. I lost my best friend to alcohol. It was horrible. I hated it. I couldn't reach her. It was another one. The Lord said, you're not the one. Don't put your foot in that door. So I didn't. You have to listen to the promptings of the Holy Spirit and stay prayed up.
That reminds me of when you make tea, you have to be careful what kind of water you use to start with. So thinking about those things, what kind of water are you steeping your life in? What are you putting in to your life that's going to become that substrate that everything else is affected by?
Gosh, is that ever true? And you really have to be mindful of that and be very careful and I'm telling you, you got to stay in the word and you've got to be quickened by the Spirit. I've had those moments. I didn't understand them when I look back. Even some good Christian friends of mine would say to me, I don't know. And I said, no, I know. God is speaking to my heart and I need to do this. And when I'm talking about my sister, whom I love very much, and I hated for her to be in that spirit. It was very destructive to her personally. But when I asked her to forgive me, really in the natural, there was nothing that she needed to ask my forgiveness for what happened. But I said, no, I'm not doing that. And when I said that to her, Tina, it was unbelievable. She looked at me like, oh, okay. I said, if I've done anything, it was about my mother's estate and my daddy's, and it was just a mess. Lawsuits. It was horrible. My mother had to sue my sister. It was terrible. And I just wanted healing. And I remember when she looked at me so funny, and do you know, almost 1 year from that day, she died suddenly. And I thought, whoa, that was for me. Then I understood what the Holy Spirit was doing, and I obeyed. And that was the thing I needed to do. It didn't make sense, but in the spirit it did. So you've got to be really careful with that and listen and know your place.
So good. Listening and knowing your place. What are some other really important pieces about that Southern culture that brings us secrets to help us live our best?
Well, in the book, I talk about, this is really not a secret. None of it really is, but I've got these little sweet tea secrets, and just like wise sayings, because the sweet tea secrets from the deep fried South, is maybe stuff that we have embraced through our lives. And we're going, why in the world are we doing that? But I mean, I even talk about the pressure cooker. I said, Mama told me about the birds and the bees and the pressure cooker. That was just as important, And then I talk about, the takeaway is how many times when I even talked to my daughter and I said, I got to tell you about the birds and the bees and the pressure cooker. And I laugh and say, your grandmama told me, her mother told her. And I'm thinking, oh, if I could just have that talk one more time with my mama. Oh, I miss her so much. And then my daughter keeps saying, Mama, you made me wear a bow in my hair till I was way too old. I said, honey, that's the way we do things. And then white shoes, you got to get rid of them after Labor Day and all stuff, and watch out for Easter. And when we get an invitation in the mail, Mama would hold it up to see if it had crane on the watermark. I mean, it was just crazy stuff like that. But I use those funny Southern examples just to talk about the nuances of the South. But the most important thing is those relationships we have, how crazy some of those things might be, but the relationships we have with our parents and folks that are, to me, a library. And you better get and check out books in that library, because one day that library is going to be gone. And when that ship sails, it doesn't come back. When you lose a loved one, it's over. And so I love to go visit I have all older friends, Tina. I don't know if you do that, but I just left my friend. She's 81, just got married again. She's in the book, and it's called The Southern Sister Second Time Around. It's got a picture of she and her husband, but I sang at her wedding. It was absolutely beautiful, but she's so wise to me. And I just took her some food because she has COVID, and, take care of those people and love them and listen to them and learn from them. And I think it helps us have a sort of a understanding of our past and next level thinking. So I put a lot of little sweet tea secrets in that book, and it's just, mostly it's funny. It's poignant. And then there's a biblical takeaway. And that's the way I like to speak. And that's the way I like to write.
I love that you're a storyteller, and your stories are all personal, relational, and authentic. They have a little touch of humor, but it's about how important the people are in our lives. And those stories are our people that matter to us so much. I think that's one of those things about the Deep South that charms everyone, that we are about story, that we are about slowing down enough to say hello, to set a spell, as so to speak. So talk to us about that a little bit, about why that is one of those biblical principles that's super important that you like to bring out in all the things that you do.
Well, I think we can't get anything back that we've wasted our time on. I was on the phone with a good friend of mine, who's an incredible author, and he was on the phone with some 6 hours with the security system. I said, you should never waste that kind of time. You'll never get that back. So I think we have to use our time and energy. The older I get, the more I believe energy is huge. We never can get that back. But just if I go see my aunt, for example, Tina, she's got dementia. She doesn't know me, but I know her. And I like to sit there and she'll say, I can't remember anything. We sit on her porch, and it's right on the Abapula Creek. I used to go and jump off that creek, dangle my legs in there, dream big, little farm girl, low IQ, the whole deal. Lived in a tenant house. Daddy was a hard worker. But I remember just sitting on that dock and dreaming and thinking, my family is important. And I love just to sit with my aunt. And I took her down to the Charleston tea garden the other day to pick up these bags of tea I was showing you. And she just kept asking me the same question. But you know what? She was the second person to hold me when I was born. She's my godmother. Do I have to see her? Will she remember? No, but I will remember. And I might say, Aunt Shing, we call her Aunt Shing, tell me about when you first met my mama. Now she can remember that. And boy, that's a gift. So I think visiting our family and our friends, and I know it's been hard during COVID, But visiting them, listening to them, letting them tell you stories from the past that you would never know unless you asked, that's something in the South I think we treasure. And I hope that our younger generation, kind of wrote it so I'd remind people what's important and what to value. And that's important to me. And I hope other people understand that too.
Are there any final things that you want to make sure people hear from your heart about secrets that really aren't secrets, but key things that we need to appreciate about Southern culture that help us better appreciate how God created us?
I think, and I said in my book, sadly, the South has been rebranded. We've been reprimanded, and we're good people. And we love everyone. We're in New South, and you know that, Tina. You're in Charlotte. You know people are moving in left and right. On Johns Island, where I was raised, where the farm is down there, we've got tons of new people. Embrace them. Listen to them. Appreciate them. And you know what? They'll appreciate you. So many people are so afraid there's going to be challenges to our Southern culture, but yet there's such an interest in our culture. We get on those carriage tours in Charleston and we learn so much. And the book starts out with, I'm on a carriage tour with a guy that spoke in a strong Northern accent. I'm going, what is this? You know, then the book ends with being on the veranda on the Battery, listening to a Charleston tour guide speaking a Southern accent thicker than a pot of grits. But we need to love and appreciate and embrace each other, and let people know about our faith too, the importance of family and embracing friends and people from all different walks of life. That's what we're about in the South.
And in the South, a lot of the dishes are much like the way God creates us to be a mix of wonderful things that are different textures, different flavors, and all taste better when they're together.
Oh, completely. And I can make a mean pot of grits. That's my favorite thing to do. I just took a casserole to a friend of ours whose husband passed away, but my grits casserole is really good. In fact, I got a video of it somewhere. So yeah, it's been really fun to revisit just those values that we hold dear, and we need to be reminded of them.
I think that's true. And I love the way that you do that. You have such a charm and a special way of sharing stories and sharing truth with a lot of flavor and some humor and some poignant personal meaning that comes from scripture. How can people stay connected with you, Jane, and get all your wonderful resources and maybe hire you as a speaker?
Well, thank you. I love to speak, and thank goodness it's getting busy again. I'm so grateful for that. I'm at Jane Herlong, HERLONG.com. And I just put the book on a pop-up. You can pre-order it. It's coming out in March. This is the date. It's a soft target date, but I'm having fun with it. I really am. So if anyone wants some humor with some life lessons tucked in there, my favorite speech is, and it'll probably be the name of my next book, is Don't Throw Tomatoes at My Field of Dreams.
Oh,
so yeah. Life lessons I learned picking tomatoes in my daddy's farm. It's a signature speech again. So I've got some funny speeches and a celebration with Pearl Friends. And it's a takeoff on girlfriends. And I wrote a book called Bury Me With My Pearls, and rhinestones on my flip-flops. That's funny. It's biblical women in their flip-flops. So, but this book is different. It is just my heart on paper, and the pictures are just outstanding. And I took some of them. So I think folks are going to love it. It's a gift book, and I'm excited about it, Tina. Really appreciate you having me on too.
I hope that all of you listening will connect with Jane and get some of her amazing resources to help uplift your heart and deepen your connection with the Lord at the same time. And of course, I also hope that you come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant. Flourish-Meant is part of the Spark Media Network and can be found on the Edify app.